Hello there, and I hope everybody's having a good, happy August. Some of you, the adults anyway, may be more surprised, or not more surprised, more happy because your children are going back to school. Those of you who are in school, that may be iffy for you, but it sort of depends on your perspective. But I hope you're all having a good day, or whenever you're taking a look at this. Let's say, and look at skills and strengths and everything else like that. And that's where I'm coming from today, because I found this quote that I thought that hit me this particular week, because I was thinking about some things that I don't do well and found myself living or looking at this particular quote. So I thought I'd share it with you. So this came from Shane Parrish. He writes a few things that I look at every once in a while. Quote, your biggest opportunity isn't in hiding, or excuse me, let's start that again. Your biggest opportunity isn't in hiding what's broken. It's what's hiding. All right, I can read, honest, I can read. Let's try this all over again. Your biggest opportunity isn't hiding in what's broken. Your biggest opportunity is in hiding in what you've stopped noticing. Didn't do that quite right, but that's the point. I have to go back, and I think I wrote it wrong. But anyway, that's the basic point. Because we all do this. The things that come easiest to us, we really don't think about because they are easy. This goes whenever you're from your childhood, actually, because if you take a look at a little kid who's doing something and say, gee, I wish I could do that. And they say, oh, it's easy. If you've ever watched little kids with smaller children, the bigger little kid is telling the smaller little kid about how easy it is, and they forget or don't remember because of their short-term memories how difficult it was for them to learn said skills. We do the same thing. If you've ever had a conversation or watched somebody, maybe they were painting or maybe they were doing something musically or whatever it was, and you said, gee, I wish I could do this. And the other person sort of like blew it off and said, oh, this is easy. Anybody can do it. And you're sitting there thinking, yeah, right, sure. This is kind of where this whole thing is coming from. Those things that come to us easily, we tend to blow off. Does this make sense? Think about this. If you think about it for a while, think in terms of when somebody said something to you about, gee, I wish I could do that, or you do that and make it look so easy, or something along that line, and you pretty much blow it off. Or respond, well, you do respond something like, anybody can do this. It's easy. I'll show you, or something like that. And the other person mentally or physically rolls their eyes. These are your strengths, and you don't look at them because they come easy. For some obscure reason, we tend to think in terms that if it's easy, then it doesn't count. What we look at are those things that are hard for us to do. And then we give ourselves a bad time because we can't accomplish them. At least we can't accomplish them without a lot of effort, if at all. Okay. So that where Parrish is coming from in this particular quote is that we tend to look at those things that we can't do or that we have a hard time doing. We're struggling doing with it. And then we give ourselves a hard time because we can't do them. Why not, he suggests, take a look at those things that you do well, see how they work in your life, and maybe you can figure out how to accomplish certain things by using those skills that you do well. Because if we're just giving ourselves a really hard time because, oh, I can't do this and I can't do that, or you've had such a really bad day and nothing's going on. If you're, say, a mother or parent, at home, and the dishes are in, the sink, the laundry's done, everything, the kids are screaming and everything, and you just feel like nothing's going right, and you're just thinking, I can't do anything, that's probably not true. You probably do something well, but you're not looking at it. And so you're feeling really, really stressed because you're giving yourself all that angst because you're looking at the things that you cannot do instead of sitting back and taking a deep breath and looking at the things that you do well. Yeah, there might be dishes in the sink and there may be laundry that's piling up and all that sort of stuff, but maybe you got a good relationship with your children or your spouse or some such thing like that. Maybe your skills at people are better than your skills at doing things. This may happen with people if you say, you're great at people skills, but your tech skills stink. Maybe your tech skills stink, but your people, I don't know why I can't talk today, but your people skills are really great. Can you use those skills that you do well to help offset some of those negative things, or at least to remember that you do certain things well and you're not as a total incompetent as you seem to think you are. Because in many cases, using your strengths can get you or help you to accomplish whatever it is that you're looking for. Now, your strengths may not be the thing that gets you that goal, but you might be able to use it to get there. For example, let's just say your tech skills are great, but your people skills, or maybe your writing skills, let's just say that your writing skills are not so great. You might be able to sort of swap off with somebody else who's got good writing skills but lousy tech skills and get some help with the other people. Does this make sense? If you've got good people skills, but maybe you don't do well in tech skills or you don't do well in something else, maybe you don't do well in writing. Again, use the thing that you do well to find somebody else who needs help with that skill, and maybe you can swap those things out. The other part to it is to think in terms of what you do well, to recognize that you do those things well. You do have something you do well. It's not like you're total incompetent in everything, because that's not true. It may feel that way on occasion, but that's not true. Somewhere along the line, there's something that you've got going on with you that's a good skill that you've got. You're just not noticing it. You're hiding it or not thinking about it because it comes easy to you. So you just sort of blow it off and don't think it's good. You've got a really good skill someplace. Not everything in your life is going lousy. You got up this morning. Now, I grant on some mornings, I wish I wasn't getting up. I wish I could stay in bed, but I got up. But that's still a good thing because it means you're alive. Because otherwise, if you can't get up, you're either A, sick, B, have an issue, injured, or you're dead. If you're dead, then you're not paying any attention to me. And you're not going to have to worry about any of this anyway. So that something is going on in your life that's okay and it's good. Start taking a look at those things and see, what do you do well? And how can you use those to either A, just make you feel better, or possibly use some of those things to swap off with somebody else to accomplish some of those tasks that somebody else doesn't do the same thing as well, and they are envious of you. Does this make sense? I hope so. The major part, even if you don't have the opportunity to swap out and to, share with other people, is to recognize the fact that you do have strengths, you do have skills, you do have capabilities. You may have to give some thought to this because you really most likely blow them all. Because if I say, all right, give me 10 things that you do well, you're probably going to sit there and say, I don't have any. And if I sat there and made you sit there and write things down, you probably have a hard time, but I would be willing to bet that if we talked about it for a while, I could probably get you to list 10 things you did well, but you're going to say, oh, this doesn't count. This doesn't matter. This is not important. Yes, it is, because it's something you do well. And the things you do well, there are other people who can't do those things as well as you do. There are some people who can't do those things at all. Let's take write. Maybe you can write. You're good at writing stories or you're good at creative writing. There are people who can't write at all. Maybe they can't read even. So if they can't read, they definitely can't write. But you're blowing off a skill that there are people in this world that wishes they could read and write, and you're blowing it off. Now, you may not know, but then again, you may not know how many people can't read or write. How many, you don't go around asking, gee, can you read? Gee, can you write? You don't do that. You take it for granted everybody can do it. And that's the point. You take it for granted. So you're taking for granted your specific skills, your specific abilities, and basically ignoring them and paying attention to the things you can't do. This week, why don't you start paying attention to what you can do, and maybe like keeping a little running list of the things that you do well, so that when you do feel one of those days in which everything is just coming down, you recognize and remind yourself that you do have good skills and you can do things well, and that those things are going to be, in the long run, what helps you get to where you want to go and to help you accomplish your goals. You may not know how you use them at this moment, but they will be able to help you. Does this make sense? I hope so. Let me know what you think. If it doesn't make sense, send me a message and I'll try and clarify it again. But then think in terms of your strengths and your positive things and stop spending so much time on the negative. Because the more you think about the negative, the more negative everything gets. If you don't like that thought, think in terms of if you had children or friends that came over and talked about it, what would you tell them? Would you tell them to focus on the negative, or would you tell them to look at the positive? So if you tell them that, why don't you practice what you preach? Okay? Does this make sense? Okay. We'll chat with you later. Give some thought to this and do let me know what you think. And I apologize for not being able to talk. I have no idea why the tongue didn't want to seem to work in the mouth today, but it does happen. Sorry about that. Okay, see there. Okay, there. See, I didn't work out for me today, so I'm sort of like blowing it off and think instead of thinking in terms that I can't do this on a regular basis. So I just caught myself doing that. Okay, see how much you catch yourself doing this week. Okay, fair enough. We'll see you later. Bye.